All right. Hello, hello. Welcome back to Wednesday live stream. I'm gonna mess with Mockery just a bit more today. I didn't check into anything from last week, so we're just kind of gonna pick up where we left off last week. And again, I'm gonna see if I can try to catch the exception that Mockery throws. Again, the whole goal here is to try to be minimally invasive. I think the PR has a better chance of getting merged if I don't go rewriting all of the exceptions that Mockery throws. In addition, in fairness, these exceptions, have been out. Mockery's been around for, decades. So everyone seems comfortable with these exceptions. So again, I don't want to go changing like the core exceptions. I think if I can add a little bit of context and we can catch those, I can reprint them much like Collision does for, Laravel or PHP Unit more specifically. So to that point, I think PHP Unit is actually the one that's catching the Mockery exception and then doing something with it. Because if we actually get into Mockery, what I believe inside of the Mockery library in the vendor folder, again, we're just kind of hacking around the vendor folder right now, but if we look for like set exception, there isn't anything in Mockery that does that. So let me see, let's go back to this like vendor. Yeah, I think this explodes. Yes. Okay, so look, if we look, here is our exception that's thrown, and it throws a Mockery invalid count exception. And if we kind of dig through the stack trace, we'll see here that its test bench interacts with Mockery. That kind of ultimately throws that. And my guess is if we went and looked at this code, one of these two is, one of these is probably setting an exception handler and then reprinting it there. And if it didn't catch it, then I think PHP Unit would. So I think today the goal is to kind of unbubble this and figure out how I can add one of these hooks reliably. Because if I can do that, then I can make my own, I can submit two simple changes to Mockery, hopefully they get merged, and then I can make my own package, much like Collision, that will take that and do analysis on those and improve each one individually over time, and I can get some community support, maybe some PRs from tweaking those and thinking of more paths, because I don't use Mockery in every possible expectation type that they have. So that's going to take a little while to build all that out. I'd cover kind of the quick wins. So let's go look at these and see. My guess is interacts with Mockery. If we go look at this, it probably has. So if class exists Mockery and it's an instance of a PHP Unit test case, then it gets Mockery, add to assertion count. So tear down the test environment using Mockery. So this add to assertion count. Okay, so this is actually like closing Mockery. Okay, let's look at application testing hooks. And then what line does it say? 127. Tear down the test. Okay, so that's what calls this. Okay, so it's probably even higher up. Let's look at testing. So this is in test bench orchestra core testing. Okay, so once, tear down the application testing hooks. If instance of and uses pests, then tear down the, okay. Test setup callbacks. All right, original exception handler. Here we go. So this is kind of what, this I think is part of what's going on. This says call before application, tear down. Okay, so we did all that. We did all that. Okay. That's not exactly what I was hoping to see. I think set up the testing environment, set up testing hooks. somewhere in here I'm expecting, somewhere in here I'm hoping or expecting that they have a set exception handler. So let's just do a broad search in here. So nothing, and that can't be right. Come on. Really? No. Where all in the vendor folder does it call set? Okay, so the whoops thing, I don't think it's in there. The Laravel framework exception handler, that's runtime. We're kind of at the testing layer. Okay, so of course, PHP unit does. PHP unit framework. So we kind of looped through these last time, and we probably will again. Symfony's error handler, I'm not seeing that pop up. These are all var dumps. It's interesting that we don't see one in Orchestra test bench. I would have expected to see one in there. Okay, let's look at where PHP unit does it. Because I think we played this game last time a little bit and we didn't see it here. So it's got, what is this part of? Is this teardown or restore global exception handlers? Let's just dump here. This is one of those times where like Xdebug would actually be worthwhile. Okay, Mockery exception invalid. Okay, so we definitely have some dumps. Okay, so we're getting here. Yeah, see, what is this? Orchestra test bench, bootstrap, handle exceptions. Handle exception. Something clearly calls this. Let's go to this file. Handle exception, test bench. Okay. Orchestra test bench, bootstrap. Handle deprecation error. Okay, I don't think we care about that. Ensure deprecation log. Okay, don't think we care about that. Is that not the right spot? Bootstrap handle exceptions. Did I not go to the right spot? What is this? That's bootstrap handle exceptions. What is this calling? Method handle exception. This doesn't exist. Am I crazy? Was there a trait? Oh, it extends. Okay. Handle exception. Here we go. Set exception on forward calls. Okay, let's see if we get down in here. So if it's running in console, render for console. Okay, do we get in here, I guess? Just trying to figure out who is actually printing this out. So, Laravel exception handler. Is it Laravel doing it? No. See, it tries to call that, but it doesn't. Something else is catching this first, and I still think it's PHP unit. I thought it was Orchestra based on the stack trace, but I don't think that it is. I think that it's something else we're going to have to find. So let's go back to PHP unit. I wish you could just see all of these. It's so annoying. Where's my test that's actually failing? Let's get in here real quick. Okay. Okay. So we get in here, we dump the exception. That's us. So let's say, so here we're going to say custom exception handler. And then we restore. Should we pass this previous? I always forget. We probably need to read up on this stuff. Let's run it. Let's just hack just for like 2 more minutes. Let's see where we get. Okay, so we're definitely not getting to the custom exception handler. Something else is, here's ours. It's here. It wasn't there before because we were restoring before it was done. So we would have to leave it on, but it's still not getting in there. again, which proves that despite there being 2 of these, they're not actually the ones that are being called. Because I think what PHP unit does is removes everyone's and puts its own on, and then it puts everything else back on. That's what I think. So let's try to prove that. Snapshot global error exception handlers. Okay, let's just slow down and kind of read this for a second. I just want to search. This is a huge file, so let's just search for exception without case. There's a lot. Okay, so let's see where this exception handler gets used. Let's just start there. It's a private thing, so we know that it's, oh, yeah, PHP Storm. That's such a terrible limitation of PHP Storm. Okay, so snapshot global error exception handlers. It finds active exception handlers. What does this do? Okay, so basically this loops over. It pops off to get the previous one, it pops off one with just an empty error exception handler, and then it immediately removes it. If previous is null, then it breaks out. Otherwise, it stores that exception handler and then removes it off the stack. So again, when it that's exactly what I thought it was doing. When it snapshots the exception handlers, it's popping all the current ones off the stack. So the only thing that's left is PHP unit's exception handler while PHP unit is running. So we need to find PHP unit's exception handler and then tap into it. Because that's what collision does, I think. If I'm right, PHP unit, I think, has like its own set of listeners or subscribers where you can tap into that. Okay, so what does it do here? What does it do next? So then it goes through each of them and puts them back on. Interesting. Okay. And it returns all of the originals. That's interesting. So it gets all the current ones, pops them all off to put them into an array, puts them all back on, and then returns it. So they're back on. They're back on here. Which means that ours should get called if PHP unit doesn't put its own on. So does it? So for each this backup global state, okay. So what is this? Is this theirs? Restore global error exception handlers. Okay, so we're getting here. Active error handlers, count, test coder, okay, fine. Okay, so it loops over each one, pulls them off, restores them, and then does the same thing. Nulls them out. Okay. I still want to find where it has its own. We're getting here on the restore, right? Or let's just say restoring. This is a big mess. Okay. So we get mockeries. Where does this come from? This comes from, let me close the chat. This comes from Mockery's container. Let's bring this back up and get rid of this dump. Mockery's container 521. Mockery teardown. Okay. Here we go. Mockery verify goes through all of them and loops through and catches it. Okay. What? Oh, it just catches any exception. So Mockery teardown. Mockery teardown. And then what does Mockery close do? For each mocks, tear them down. Okay. They don't do anything. Fine. And then it rethrows the exception. Okay, so now we should just be back to restoring. Who in the hell is actually printing this thing out? Orchestra sidekick functions. The highest up on the stack is 61, but that's just what it... Mockery container 523, 519 is here. That should throw an exception, and we have proven that we got here with our dump just a second ago. So we're definitely getting there, and then we're restoring before we see the exception. Again, it's gotta be PHP unit. These like hook callbacks are interesting. Let's just go to the very bottom of this and do another dump. Okay. See, what's interesting too is it dumps this out, and I think it dumps this out because our test actually needs to remove it as well. Where's our test? Here it is. I think if we take this off, maybe... No, we still see that. Pest line 50. Oh, okay, it just gives us the general thing. What's previous? Maybe this will help. What's previous? That should be orchestras. Yeah, that makes sense. So we push ours onto the stack. Orchestra's in there. It's never calling ours. It's never calling ours, which means that... Let's just kill the throwable for giggles. Yeah, it's never calling ours. The previous one was orchestras. There was one error. Where the hell does this get printed? How about that? Nope. There was. How many of these are there? It's not too bad. 16. Okay. Pretty page handler. There was an error. That's not it. It's not in here anywhere. Does that make any sense? Oh, is it not in a PHP file? No. How is there was not here? Anywhere. Is it not in vendor? No. Now I'm really lost. Error colon? How about error colon? Any winners? Limit it to just PHP. How is this output? Where is this even coming from? Now I'm really confused. Now it's just like, it's one of those moments where it's like, okay, let's just give up on programming. What the hell? This is getting output by something. How is there was not in here anywhere? Get rid of the casing. 52 matches, no casing. Okay. I mean, there was has to be in the code. It's getting output. There's no additional matches if I... Nowhere in the workspace. Doesn't make any sense. This is all dynamic, so I know that's not going to get output. But I mean, clearly these are getting output, right? Time, space. Is time in here? 102 matches. That's a lot. Still a lot. Yeah, it's almost like if you could just figure out where this was getting output, you could start backtracing it, but that doesn't make any sense. Let's try dataset with dataset. Here we go. Test method. What is this? Source event value test. Okay, okay. Here we go. Framework test case. What is this? Dataset as string. All right, buffer. Oh yeah, that's another. I think that's another complication is they do output buffering. Ugh. Yeah. Where's data? Oh, I'm not gonna be able to search on this. I think probably what might make sense is to actually clone PHP unit directly so I can get some better click-through inside of PHP Storm. Return buffer plus this. Okay, so toString. Return a string back. Okay, cool. So whatever calls this, right, is like, yeah, whatever calls that. These are declarations. Prettified data set, fine. Okay, ID equals. See, somewhere in data set with string. Yeah, see, I can't like jump around, which kind of makes it hard to mess with. I feel like if I could jump around, I could at least see what's actually outputting this, and then we could backtrace where that is. I'm pretty convinced, and I was from the beginning in a way, that I think it's PHP unit that's catching this and putting it in an output buffer. It's interesting though, because Laravel, when you write, what's interesting to me and kind of what's throwing me off in the back of my mind is Laravel's exception handler is tapped here, right? It's registered as we saw in the stack of exception handlers. And we've got a dump in there. When you run an HTTP test inside of your Laravel application, for example, you get nice clean output. Now, do you get nice clean output because that's what Laravel is outputting, or do you get nice clean output because PHP unit is catching that exception and just calling, print string on it? And I kind of think it's the latter. And I think we looked at collision last time, and if you look at collision, it subscribes to PHP unit's events or that are output, and I think that and then it just takes that message as I think and parses it and gives you like a term wind output. It doesn't actually catch or do anything. I think it relies upon PHP unit events. So I think we need to take a new approach here. I think the new approach is download PHP unit, backtrace this to see what is actually printing it out, and see which hooks it has. Like then jump back in here and confirm that, okay, this is actually printing the Mockery exception. And if so, then I can read about, PHP unit subscribers. I think that's probably the way to go. So PHP unit. Oop, I meant to go here. Let's copy this down. So let's just back out of here, git clone that. Let's close this, and let's do a new project from existing files. Workspace PHP unit. 20 clicks later. All right, let's go into PHP unit, composer, install. Let's just make sure we have everything. I don't know what is making my Mac sing, but it is singing today. Let's see what's going on in chat. Hey Jeffrey, how's it going? Thanks for joining live. Samuel, Daryl, what's up everyone? Thanks for watching me fumble along in Mockery PHP unit land. These are really, really like dense. They're really, really dense libraries. There's no way in the world that if you went looking for something inside of Laravel, it would take 23 minutes to find. There's no way. That's not to say that Laravel doesn't have some complex pieces. Go take a look at like, you know, the queue infrastructure. Like the underlying code for that is pretty, I've gone in there before. It's pretty nuts. But you'd be able to find what you're looking for within 23 minutes. You might not understand it within 23 minutes, but you'd be able to find what you were looking for. I'm still trying to find the spot of code that's actually outputting our exception message. Crazy. Okay. We knew, where were we? We were trying to find, not that, sorry. There was. Okay, so again, even in here, there isn't a there was. So something else is printing that out. I think we saw data set. So yeah, here we go. Let's kind of back. So now with hopeful auto completion, let's kind of backtrace this. Okay, so let's find base method. Okay, team city, okay, test method. Okay, here we go. Okay, result printer. Okay, we're starting to get somewhere now. Okay, test method. So name with class, cool. Where's this used? Okay, result printer. Here we go. This is feeling better. Okay, so if is test method, then safety assertion, data provider. Okay, so what uses name? Oh, okay, this is starting to explain why. This is starting to explain why we're not, okay, they use like a printer class. Okay. Where has this come from? Text UI, this is crazy. All right, so they have this print. Okay, so has test failed events. Who calls this? Print test with failed assertions. Great, okay. So we have test with failed assertions. Print, okay, who calls print? A facade. Oh my gosh. PHP unit has facades? Mine's kind of blown right now. I kind of want to get on GitHub and see how long PHP unit has had a class called facade. PHP unit is one of the oldest PHP de facto libraries in the community. And I just love how the community, like, there was a period of time where they just, again, I've been with Laravel also for a pretty long time, so like, or using Laravel, sorry, not like with the team, but using Laravel for a very long time now. And like, I just remember the period of time where like everyone griped on facades. So it's just hilarious to me that one of the other de facto PHP long-standing libraries, most popular within the community, has a class called facade. Okay, so it's in facade. Leaving all that aside, it's in facade. Print result. Okay, we're just gonna keep backing up the line here. Print result. Okay, application. Here we go. What does this do? What does this do? Wow, this does a lot. Okay, here we go. Okay. This makes more sense now. The PHP unit application, the test runner, actual test runner, fires up an application loaded in the background. Okay. It executes the command. and it runs the test suite, basically, effectively. Okay, this makes more. May of 2021. Okay, so not probably as long as Laravel, but then they adopted it after all the griping. Hilarious. Anyway, thanks, chat. Okay, so anyway, let's see here. Okay, so this application, the console application that actually runs, is the thing that's going to output. I'm just trying to see where. Okay, so it builds the test suite, restore deprecation. Okay, so fine. So it definitely has an error handler. Okay, so what's this error handler? What does this do? Whose is this? Is this PHP units? Yes, it is. It's part of the runner. Deprecation triggers. Invoke. I'm just trying to see if this has some kind of like handler. Again, we're still in this place where we're trying to find this is called error handler, not exception handler, but this is doing all the error. Yeah, this is not necessarily handling the exceptions. Errors and exceptions are two different things. So let's go back. Register the deprecation handlers, error handlers, all that stuff. Show help command. Okay, they're starting the timer. They're running stuff. They're stopping the timer. Event facade emitter. Okay, fine. Cannot log. Okay, test result facade result. Get the result. Output facade. Test facade result. What does this get you? Self collector result. Test result. Number of tests. Number of test skip. Okay. So this is kind of more. What is this class? Yeah. This is kind of more proof that when you run something like PHP unit, it's in control of everything. It's in control of it's managing the output buffer. It's managing errors, deprecation notices, errors of any kind, and exceptions of any kind. So it's definitely PHP unit that is ultimately printing this. But it's kind of just a matter of like which one's actually printing it. And it's still surprising to see that there's not like an explicit set exception handler like in here. Like there has to be set exception handler. See, it's still the only places that we used it. This is only when they're backing up the global exception handlers. If they're taking them all off, then that means that somewhere in here they have just a generic catch-all, top-level catch, syntax, which they might in the application. So I'm just not seeing it yet. If they remove all exception handlers, then like they're the ones catching it. So like, does this have a catch in here? They do. Okay. Exit with crash message. They have a lot of catches. Okay, so that's for building the exception. Okay, so exit with error message, get message. Okay, so that's the configuration loader, so it's not that catch. Build test suite. It's not building the test suite. All these are very, very specific. So again, we're looking for like a very top level, like catches a throwable here. Exit with crash message. And see, I wouldn't think we're getting here, personally. Because we're still outputting everything. So again, the runner itself is catching stuff. It's putting it in the quote-unquote test result, and then I think the printer is ultimately printing it out. That's what I think is happening after looking at this code. I don't think Yeah, see, we're not seeing an error occurred inside of it. We're seeing something else. So I think this print, this output facade, not this one specifically, but one of these output facades is actually what's taking this result and printing it. I think this, somewhere in here, okay, so it's not those. So it's got print standard error, and then it picks the printer. So we're probably like, I guess it's using the pretty printer or default printer. Yeah. Standard output. Okay. So what has this got? Construct, print, fwrite. Okay, so this is just, that's super generic. It's not actually outputting anything. Yeah, the OOP here too is also like just creating a crazy level of layering. It's like design pattern bingo in here. You got the facade, you got the printer, you got delegation, you got it, you got it all. It's a lot of things to figure out here and keep in your headspace. Okay. Here's what I want to do. I want to find, let's spend just like 5 more minutes here. I want to find, I think this result printer is probably kind of close to what we're after. I think when it's printing, I kind of would expect one of these to say exceptions though. And it's kind of not, which is still kind of making me think this isn't. Yeah, see, nothing in here says exception. So maybe it's print test with failed assertions. And this is kind of like potentially what's outputting stuff. So what I want to do is let's go back to Blueprint. Let's get down in result printer and just put a dump right here. And hopefully it outputs. And then we'll just move it down the line until we figure out which one of these printers is actually outputting the exception message. Because what I think is happening is PHP unit is catching the exception message and it's reformatting it into another object or into the test result somehow. And that test result just has an array in there of like, this was the exception and this is what you should output. Which is tough, because again, if PHP unit eats it and we can't catch it before PHP unit, we're kind of stuck. So if none of this works, then I think what I'll do next time, after Laracon, I'm not going to stream next week, but I think next time I'll take a different angle. I think what we'll do next time is get into collision and see how collision catches PHP unit stuff. They may just register their own printer is kind of what happens. So we really need to see if we're able to get this exception. If not, then we're back to where we have to be pretty invasive with Mockery and like change its exception format and then just let whatever's out there print it. I don't really want to do that. I'd really love to catch it somehow on my own and not have to change all the places in Mockery, because I just don't think that's very feasible. Okay, so let's find result printer. There it is. I'm just going to assume it's the default, and we're going to go down here, right? And we'll say dump printer. And we'll go back. Whoops. Let's go back to Blueprint. I still don't know why my Mac is singing today. Let's close. I've noticed Chrome lately has like been a memory hog. Probably need to update it. Where were we? We were vendor. Yeah, let's run this again. Printer. Great. Awesome. Okay. So let's just move this down. Let's just move this down several times. So we've got warnings, deprecations. Let's do this a little faster. So you and you and you, You probably just could have done each of the if statements. Okay, good enough. All right, let's do that. And we'll go here and take that and come up. And we'll go tab, dump, that. There we go. All right, let's see where we get. Okay. Boop. Oh, here we go. Okay. Display details on incomplete tests. Okay, so that's farther down. Where did we get here? Display tests with errors. We were on the right track, kind of. Display test with errors. Okay, let's get down in here. Whew. Sorry, I gotta check the clock here. This is nuts. 40 minutes. 40 minutes to find the line that I wanted. They must scrub. They have to scrub the stack trace, right? They have to scrub that stack trace. Because why didn't I see any of like PHP units vendor stuff in the stack trace? They have to scrub it to be like, okay, just take out anything that's start after all of PHP unit stuff and go until you get PHP unit stuff. Because yeah, I mean, that'd have to be what they do. And maybe we'll see that here in a second. Okay, so what did we say? Print test with errors. Okay, what does this do now? Result, test errored events as event. Okay. Result, test. So what do we get? We get a test result. Test errored events. Test errored events. Print list header with number. Wait, was it error or failed assertions? No, test with errors. Okay, so it's considered an error, not an exception. Annoying. Let's dump. Let's just dump result test errored events. Let's see what's in here. Like, do we have the whole exception in here? No, it's empty. Of course it is. Okay, so it's not an error. Did I go to the right spot? Display test with errors. Display print test with errors. Just went down here. What in the world? Oh, sorry. I must have auto-completed that. My bad. All right, what's in here? Here we go. What's in here? There we go. Big old thing. Okay, so we got a PHP PHP unit errored. Okay, so it tracks, okay, telemetry, nice. It tracks all of the stuff about when it happened and la la la. Okay, and then it tracks the test, which it happened for, nice. Does it have, okay, so it's got a class name. It's got a throwable, it's got a class name. It's got the message. Yeah, see, look at this. It's this was what I was kind of worried about. It's pre-wrapped. It's pre-wrapped. And then they got a stack trace. See, they pre-wrapped it. Shit. Yeah, I was kind of worried they were going to do that. So they are catching the exception. Then they're wrapping it in an object. They're mapping the exception to one of their own objects, and then that gets put in the test result. So it's kind of what I was worried about. I was really hoping that this would have a throwable and yeah, maybe some data, but then it would have a link out to that object. But it doesn't. Which to me means that collision, even if it is listening for this, it's just doing some string manipulation. It's not actually like it's not actually rebuilding objects or anything. It's just taking their message and like cleaning it up based on like some, you know, again, some string manipulation. So that's not good. That's unfortunate. Because the whole point was I was going to add some context to Mockery's exception, this exception, and then be able to print it out better later. But that doesn't seem to be what's going to be able to happen, because getting something merged also into PHP unit, there's no way. Okay, what do they call this? PHP code. Okay, so they do put it in an event. They do put it in an event. I'm just, again, not all hope is gone per se. Not all hope is gone. What you really kind of want to see is where do they make like a new one? Where do they make a new? I'm trying to find in the code where there's like new throwable. It's probably dynamic, unfortunately. Yeah, when they're actually running more usages. Whoa, okay, they got a lot. Test result. Is there anything in here that's like new? No. Not the tests. Oh, here we go. Return new throwable builder. Here we go. Here we go. That looks pretty good. Okay, so from, where do you get called? You're static. Good. Where do you get called? Oh, wow. Everywhere. Test case. Okay, what is this? All right, here we go. Okay, so just to kind of give us a rough idea. What are we doing here? When the test is incomplete, value for objects, and then so we're catching. Yeah. And what is this in? It's in the actual test case. So we run the test case. If there's a failure, then we build the throwable. Test status failure, get message. See, the problem is we just catch it. Is registered failure. What's this? Is registered, what's this? Array keys, this failure type as failure, instance of, okay. If there's a registered failure, test status failure, get message, test failed with that, else, transform exception. Emitter test errored. See, you never get, the problem is you never get if is set E and has expectation on output, stop buffering, perform assertions on it. There still might be some hope. Yeah, there still might be some hope, but the thing is, what I'm not seeing is I'm not seeing anywhere where where this exception that they're catching is actually like rethrown or sent raw somewhere else. It's only ever sent raw to this builder, right? So you'd have to, it's almost like you'd have to, and I'm sure it exists, again, I'll just have to read up on PHP unit, but like, that kind of gave me some hope a minute ago where like, there's this like handle exception. Yeah, this is registered failure. Like what, what is this? Does this have an opportunity to get? I kind of thought they like emitted events, right? They emit test failed, but nothing in here gets the raw exception, right? Like, see, I would want to see, E here. If something got E there, then I could do something. But nothing does. It only ever gets the wrapped one. So throwable T, and T's never even T get previous. T class, T message. T throwable to stringer map. What does this do? I mean, yeah, maybe there's hope. Maybe there's some way to tap into one of these mappers or something. Again, maybe that's what collision does. I don't know. Stack trace from throw. Oh, just real quick, I want to see if they actually chop out. I want to see if they like filter out PHP unit. Self frame exists. Unshift. Yeah, I was trying to see if they like stack trace as string. Oh yeah, here you go. Okay, exclude list. Somewhere, yeah, okay, should print frame. Yeah, here you go. I bet you somewhere in here, that's kind of what I thought. Somewhere in here they filter stuff out. That's looks like it has a prefix of wherever you're running PHP unit from. So they do strip out. That's why we never saw where any of this printer was. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We're going to stop there because I think this has been a slog. I think the thing to do is for me to probably read up on PHP units, events, and subscribers and listener kind of things, how we can hook into it. But from what it looks like, even if I did that, I'm not going to get the raw exception, which would have the additional Mockery context. I'm not going to get it. And because PHP unit removes all of the exception handlers, I'm not going to be able to catch anything myself. So it's almost like what I would have to do. It's almost like what I would probably have to do is instead look at Mockery to see if there's a place in Mockery I could override through a package and add my own catch and then rethrow it and to give PHP unit ultimately a better message. That's probably, I think that's what I've come to the conclusion from today. I don't think there's going to be a straightforward way to do this. And again, in fairness, I'm not like the smartest person alive, so the fact that nobody's tackled this in 10 years is kind of proof that it's taken 50 minutes to try to figure out where the heck you would even put this if you wanted to do it. So this is not an easy thing. This is not an easy thing is the point. And I don't think it's because I'm dumb, and I don't think it's because I'm smart. I'm just your average developer, and I'm finding where this goes, and I think it's challenging. So anyway, thanks everybody for joining live. I will be at Laracon US next week. If you're going to be there too, come say hi to me, please. I love chatting. And otherwise, I will see you all in August when I'm back to my Wednesday live streams.